The Caribbean Princess is an older ship, but she still has a lot to offer. I just disembarked from a 12-day repositioning cruise from Quebec City to Fort Lauderdale, and I've been pleasantly surprised to experience the benefits of an older ship that's very well managed. Although it's dated in many areas and bunk beds can really get in the way in some of its cabins, this ship has the most pools and hot tubs I've seen on a ship of any size, along with great food, technology, and nightlife. Is Caribbean Princess worth considering for your next cruise? Stay tuned for a full review. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Ottawa, Canada here. Welcome to the Chill Cruiser, where I review premium cruise ships from a chill perspective, sharing tips on how to save time, money, and grief on your cruise vacations. Today I'm going to review my recent cruise on Caribbean Princess. This was a 12-day repositioning cruise from Quebec City to Fort Lauderdale that made several stops along the East Coast, including beautiful Newport, Rhode Island, Boston, and New York City. Mid-October was an incredible time to visit these ports with the fall colors on full display. If you've watched my previous videos, you might be wondering what I was doing back on a Princess ship after several not-so-great experiences earlier this year. Well, I spent some money in their casino on those cruises, so I was able to get this cabin comped, and the itinerary made sense since Quebec City isn't far from my home here in Ottawa, and I wanted to visit a friend who recently moved to Florida. On my last Princess cruise on the Majestic, there were major issues getting on and off the ship throughout the cruise, port cancellations, below-average food, lineups for everything, and the nightlife was non-existent. I was very pleasantly surprised to experience the complete opposite on this cruise. Getting on and off the ship was a breeze at every port, lineups were non-existent, the food was excellent, and so was the nightlife. It goes to show you the difference strong ship leadership makes. Even more surprising is that the Caribbean Princess is an older Grand Class ship compared to the newer Royal Class ships that I sailed on earlier this year. In many aspects, I would argue that this class of ship is actually better than Royal Class ships. It offers the best of both worlds of cruising. The amenities from older ships that are no longer standard on new builds, along with technology of newer ships. First, let's look at the Caribbean Princess at a glance. She's just under 20 years old with 19 decks and a guest capacity of 3,100 passengers at double capacity. On my cruise, we were sailing at about 80% capacity with 2,500 passengers on board. She's sailing the Caribbean and Europe until 2025, when she'll be repositioned to the West Coast for Alaska itineraries. The stern of the ship really stands out since it looks like a spaceship. Caribbean Princess is actually the only ship remaining in the Princess fleet with this configuration where the nightclub and observation lounge is dramatically perched at the very back of the ship above the aft pool and lounge area, supported by two massive pillars with a sky bridge connecting it to the ship. The other ships in the Grand Class that share this design have either been transferred to P&O Cruises Australia or, in the case of the slightly smaller Grand Princess, been updated to remove the disco completely because of weight and balance issues. Newer ships in the class relocated the Skywalker Lounge closer to the funnel area to better distribute weight. Caribbean Princess has been updated twice since 2017, where some venues like the buffet got an update and cabin TVs were replaced, but you can tell many areas of the ship are untouched because they still look very dated. But as you'll see, what she lacks in modern design, she makes up for in many other areas. As always, I'll start my review by looking at access. I took the train to Quebec City from Ottawa, which was a very comfortable experience with stunning views of the fall colors sweeping by the entire trip. The Quebec City Cruise Terminal is a short 10-minute walk from the train station, and it's a big, bright, and very well-staffed facility. I was checked in with a smile and on the ship in about 5 minutes. Getting around the ship was very easy with more than enough elevators. Getting on and off the ship at ports was also very easy and well-managed with minimal lineups. You could tell security had their act together because they were swapping multiple lanes for people embarking and disembarking based on volumes in the moment to minimize wait times. This was the kind of leadership and adapting on the fly that was missing on the Majestic earlier this year and caused so many lineups and frustration. Disembarkation in Fort Lauderdale was also very smooth and fast. I would rate access 5 out of 5 stars. The vibe of the ship is classic Princess with golden browns in most indoor spaces and the 3-deck piazza serving as the hub of the ship. There are several lounges that have a retro private club feel that at times is again a bit dated but still very comfortable. A cool feature of this ship is the disco and observation lounge that has a long escalator leading to it from the main part of the ship. This area is very fittingly called Skywalker since it's the section that looks like a spaceship. I found the layout a bit more straightforward than Royal Class ships, although it still has several dead ends and the isolated aft dining room that is only accessible by the aft stairwell and elevators. Guest service is a bit awkward, located right in the middle of a heavy foot traffic area in the piazza, so it was hard to tell who was in line and who was just socializing when it was busy the first couple of days. The piazza worked well for all the many musicians and activities featured throughout the cruise, and most of the ship was more than happy to participate almost every night, creating a fun vibe. Unlike the Royal Class, Grain Class ships feature a full promenade that wraps completely around the ship, which is a great way to get your steps in. Moving to the top decks, which have a relaxing resort vibe with a charming Asian Zen vibe in the forward adults-only sanctuary pool. Almost every square foot is open to everyone, which is becoming less common as more and more space on newer ships is reserved for premium cabins or guests who pay an extra fee. It can get tricky getting from the main Lido pools to the adult pool one deck up at the front of the ship. One staircase leads to a dead-end sun deck. I found the trick is to look for the curved staircase. Also watch out for the paths on either side of the front of the ship on deck 16 that lead to dead ends when they look like you'll be able to go completely around the ship. From a demographics perspective, it was definitely a mature crowd on my cruise because of the itinerary, but it was still mostly a fun vibe with many couples dancing to live music in the piazza and in the disco. Everyone was talking about how the ship was going to feel very different on the next cruise when the ship started its Caribbean itineraries, many of them for 4 or 5 days, which attract a much younger crowd. Overall, I would rate Vibe 4 out of 5 stars. I had an Oceanview cabin, which was a bit disappointing in some areas, but there are some upsides as well. The decor is very dated with some touches that are overdue for replacement, like the lamps. Many unobstructed Oceanview cabins on Caribbean Princess have massive bunk beds mounted on either side of the bed, which made it very awkward to get into the bed without having to contort myself. When choosing your cabin, I would try to avoid them if at all possible by referring to the deck plan. Unfortunately, Princess's deck plans don't indicate whether the beds are mounted to the wall or come down from the ceiling like other cruise lines, and the pop-up info boxes for each cabin don't mention anything about capacity or extra beds. You can check the capacity of your cabin by selecting 3 or 4 guests in the drop-down list. Cabins that retain their category color in the map have extra beds to fit that capacity and could have the bunk set up. This is definitely something Princess should fix to help avoid unwelcome surprises like these bunk beds when you first enter the cabin. The bed itself felt a lot more plush or soft than Royal Class ships. A fellow cruiser called them marshmallow mattresses, which I thought was an apt description. If you like your mattress firm, these beds may disappoint. The in-room TVs were replaced with large displays in one of the recent updates, and they feature Princess's great selection of on-demand programming, including reruns of Frasier, which are a treat to watch when you're relaxing in your cabin. The bathroom was small but functional and had the best shower pressure I've seen on a cruise ship, with a dial to adjust the pressure to your liking. You can request a robe using the Medallion app or asking your stateroom attendant, which is one of the most plush and comfortable robes I've seen. Overall, I would rate cabins 3.5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to food. The room service menu offers a lot of options. Just note that there's a new $5 fee for room service orders if you don't have the Princess Plus or Premier package. If you use the Princess app to deliver food or drinks to anywhere on the ship other than your room, you also need to pay a $15 activation fee if you don't have the Plus or Premier packages. I had a package, so I took full advantage of the perk, and every order was delivered within about 15 to 20 minutes, no matter where I was on the ship. The food options available throughout the ship were also excellent. For fast food, you have several options, including the International Marketplace in the Piazza, which has a great selection of pastries and muffins in the morning, and sandwiches, savory tarts, and desserts the rest of the day. On the Lido deck, you can get tasty pizza by the slice, as well as burgers, hot dogs, and tacos. There was a noticeable improvement in the quality and selection of food in the buffet compared to my last couple of cruises on Regal and Majestic earlier this year. My only complaint about the buffet is it can feel very crowded, like elbow to elbow crowded, when they have only one of the 2 food stations open, which was the case most of my cruise. The one Princess staple missing from a casual dining perspective is Alfredo's, which is a favorite pizza restaurant for many loyal Princess cruisers. Instead, the ship has a barbecue and seafood menu available for an extra fee in the aft section of the buffet in the evenings, which didn't seem very popular on my cruise. The food in the main dining rooms was excellent. There were several nights where the dinners were very memorable, including the beef tenderloin, Spanish tapas, and even beef stroganoff. I was happy to see that Caribbean Princess didn't have the long lineups in the main dining room that I've seen on other Princess ships. All 3 of the dining rooms had several friendly hosts seating guests, so there were minimal lineups. They were actively encouraging people to share tables, so that probably helped. Princess has eliminated traditional dining, but you can make reservations before the cruise using their app. I tried both specialty restaurants, but to be honest, I was more impressed with the food in the main dining room. Where the specialty restaurants seemed to excel was dessert. Sabatini's offers a 5-course Italian menu, and the entree portions are massive, so keep that in mind as you order. I took the server up on his recommendation of the osso buco and asked for a small portion, but it still came in a huge serving. The highlight was this chocolate hazelnut dessert, which you can request as a small standalone sampler. Crown Grill, the steak restaurant, was also average. I had the goat cheese salad and sirloin. Again, the standout was dessert. I tried their cobbler for the first time and it was mouth-wateringly delicious. You can find menus from all the restaurants on my blog. Overall, I would rate food 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on to drinks, you never have to walk very far to find a bar regardless of which deck you're on, and I never had to wait for a drink. The bartenders were all very friendly. The wine selection is fairly limited compared to other lines, but the options they do have are good, including a grey champagne available by the glass that's included in the premier drink package. There isn't a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc available by the glass on any of the wine lists on the ship, but you can request Pinot Gris in the dining rooms, which was pretty close. At their wine bar, they were offering Cloudy Bay by the glass if you asked, which was a treat. Every bar seemed well stocked from a beer and liquor perspective. You can find the wine list and bar menus on my blog. I'll rate drinks 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on to entertainment, which overall was great. Despite being a 12-day cruise, there was only one production show when there are usually 3. Shows were postponed due to technical issue on the second night and rough seas on the third night, and only one of them was rescheduled. Luckily, the ship made up for a lack of production shows with the talented musicians performing throughout the rest of the ship. Static, their main party band, was the best band I've seen at sea, and that's saying something after 35+ cruises. It featured 2 talented singers and a 3-piece band that rocked the ship wherever they performed. What really impressed me was that the singers regularly left the stage to perform among guests as they were dancing, in many cases singing while dancing with other guests, including Santa Claus. If you ever see them on your cruise, you're in for a real treat. I was also really impressed with the cruise director and the activities team. You could see them out every night working to get the dance floor started and then dancing with guests. This was a night and day experience compared to Majestic earlier this year, where you only saw the activities team at trivia or game shows. There were also 2 pianists, a string duo, a guitarist, and members of the ship's orchestra performing throughout the day and evening. Overall, I'll rate entertainment 4 out of 5 stars, not a perfect 5 only because of the lack of production shows. Speaking of trivia and game shows, there were plenty on offer every day of the cruise, and they were not surprisingly very well attended. What I really appreciated is that they balanced these options with other activities, including enrichment speakers and a Voice of the Ocean competition. Throughout the cruise were tryouts and elimination rounds, culminating in a final performance on the last day to choose the winner, complete with chairs from the set of The Voice. The Piazza was also full of energy every night with events like an 80s theme night where the activities team really got in the spirit of things and several dance parties. Caribbean has a large disco in the Skywalker Lounge at the back of the ship that looks straight out of the set of Saturday Night Fever, but it's a fun venue. The DJ remembered the song I requested on the first night and played it throughout the cruise. It might help that the song is related to a very popular movie this year, which anyone who's met me on a cruise will know what it is. You can find the daily program for every day of the cruise on my blog. I would rate activities 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to the amenities of the ship, which were outstanding. I've never seen so many pools and hot tubs on a ship of any size. There are 5 mostly large, heated outdoor pools and a whopping 7 hot tubs spread across 3 decks, starting with the terrace pool at the back of Deck 14, which is surrounded by an amphitheater-style design that spans 4 decks with various chairs, loungers, and a bar. If you go up to Deck 17, there's another small pool, large hot tub, and a kids' water park. This entire complex was a great area to hang out and enjoy the wake view. There are 2 pool areas in the middle of the ship on Deck 15, one with a large screen for movies and concerts, and both include a pair of hot tubs. I really liked how the second pool was separate enough so that you could still relax and enjoy the pool without hearing machine gun fire for movies playing on the screen, which is what happens on Royal Class ships since the 2 pools are right next to each other. There's another large pool and 2 hot tubs for adults at the front of Deck 16. The only downside is that there isn't an indoor pool, which isn't a big issue for Caribbean or European sailings, but it might disappoint some when the ship is sailing in Alaska in 2025. Back to the theme about the ship having the best of both worlds. It was refreshing for almost every square inch of the top decks to be open to everyone, other than the Sanctuary Lounge, which is available for a fee. This is not to be confused with the Sanctuary Pool, which is open to any adult. Even in warm sunny weather, there were so many pools and lounge chairs that they never felt crowded, and only 1/3 of the lounge chairs were occupied. Another amenity you don't see on newer ships is the change rooms by the gym and spa have a sauna and steam room open to everyone, which is a real bonus. There unfortunately isn't an enclave like on Royal Class ships, but there is a thermal suite available for an extra fee that includes most of the enclave amenities like warmed loungers, rain showers, and various steam rooms. The only element missing is a hydrotherapy pool, but there are 2 hot tubs in the sanctuary pool area just outside the gym and spa. Indoors, the many lounges doubled as performance venues for the many musicians performing on the ship, and there was a small library and internet cafe located on Deck 5 opposite the International Marketplace. I would definitely rate amenities 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to the technology of the ship, which is the best you can find at sea. The medallion concept makes so much of your cruising experience seamless. Unlocking your cabin door as you approach it, replacing the need to swipe a card at bars in the casino. The medallion app is still a bit clunky, but it makes it easy to check menus, make dinner reservations, and order food to be delivered anywhere on the ship. Internet speed on the ship was also consistently good, even for streaming movies. One unique aspect of Princess is that they only have one internet plan option instead of the basic and premium options you see on other lines that can limit what you can access and the speed. Overall, I would rate technology 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to the casino, which is the only really disappointing aspect of the cruise. It's a fair size that's split into smoking and non-smoking sections like on other Princess ships. There was a decent selection of slot machines that only seemed to be paying jackpots to high-stakes gamblers, betting the maximum amount at the highest denomination, which was usually $50. All play revolves around your medallion and an electronic bank, so there are no tickets, which works well. Unfortunately, this was the first casino on land or sea where I experienced unprofessional behavior from casino staff on several occasions, which was really disappointing. On one occasion, a slot technician asked me to stop playing and escorted me to another machine I had played a few minutes before. She then asked if I would give back a credit that I had no idea was applied to my account by accident by another guest right in front of that guest, which put me on the spot and felt very uncomfortable. And then there was the host who offered me a specialty dinner but never followed up on when the reservation was and gave me attitude after I asked other casino staff for details since the cruise was almost over and I couldn't find him. With all of that in mind, I'm going to give the casino my first ever 1-star rating. A new casino manager did start in the middle of my cruise, so hopefully future cruisers will have a much better experience. Last but definitely not least is service, which aside from the casino was excellent. All of the crew in every area of the ship were very friendly and helpful. You could tell that the morale was high among the crew, which again speaks to the strength of leadership on board. I would rate service 5 out of 5 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed my cruise on Caribbean Princess. It really does offer the best of both worlds, and it's perfect for the Caribbean. Usually you give something up when you sail on an older ship, but that is definitely not the case here. In fact, I'm going to explore in a future video how in many cases the Grand Class is better than the newer Royal Class ships. Just try to avoid those cabins with the bunk beds if you don't need them. If you want to see what it's like on a Princess ship with poor leadership, check out my review of Majestic Princess here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.